Welcome to Turtle Tracks Podcast. This is your host, Brian VanHooker, and I'm here with Frank Sims, a voice actor and musician who has been the voice of the Kool-Aid Man and has worked with people like David Bowie, Madonna, Billy Joel. But I'm not going to ask him about any of those things. We're going to talk to him about how he played Raphael in the tracks for the Coming Out of Their Shells tour for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Frank, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to talk to you.
I'm glad to talk to you and glad to meet you and find somebody else that understood what was going on back there. And I love it.
So, I guess, I guess to get started, how did you get find your way into music? Because you've done a ton of work. So I guess, can you give me your bio a little bit? I would love to hear more.
Sure, I love it. I do come from a broadcasting family, meaning how you and I know now broadcast involves many things, internet and all sorts of things. But my dad and my uncle, back in the early 50s, were announcers for very big television shows. My father did the Gary Moore Show, which was a daytime sort of a Carol Burnett kind of show, variety, comedy, entertainment, all sorts of singing. And my dad was the Ed McMahon type of guy that sang, and he was in the skits. Then he did I Love Lucy, the I Love Lucy show. And he did, starring Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz. So he did that. And then he was lucky enough to be in New York. I was actually born in Oklahoma, as was my parents and my brothers. But when my dad got the bug to go out to New York, he got into theater when he was at college in Oklahoma. And he said, this is for me. So he was a real trooper, and he's got 3 little boys, goes up to New York, does an audition, wins it, comes back, picks us up in a station wagon, and we go back to New York and I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and my dad commuted in and did all those television shows. He did Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, which was one of the first shows in full color offered back in the late 50s. Yeah, one of the first in TV in the early 60s. And then my uncle, here's another great one, because, I have a brother story to tell you a little bit later, but my dad's brother, as I told you, about 2 years younger than he was, he got the bug. He went to Los Angeles, not to New York. He went to Los Angeles. He moved next door at some point. He did what he had to do. Next door to Quinn Martin.
I know that name. Wait. TV producer, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, in the 70s, right?
Absolutely. You got a great mind. It was like...
Yeah, Quinn Martin. That's one of those, this is a Quinn Martin production. I know that. Why? I'm trying to remember the shows. Okay, you did The Fugitive. Okay, yeah, I know that name. Sure.
Yeah. It's like the FBI.
Yes.
Jones, Mission Impossible. This has been a Quinn Martin production.
That's what I remember. Yes.
So my uncle had the talent and the voice, but like I tell you how things happen, he lived next door to Quinn Martin. So, it's correct. And of course, that was way back in what you call the Mad Men days. So, men had the martinis. It was the exact, just a replica of the show. And that my dad and my uncle grew up in that era. And so therefore, you said, how did I get started? Well, I went to see my dad at the Gary Moore Show, the Merv Griffin Show, I Love Lucy. I would go to the studio because I was fascinated. And I was fascinated to go, fascinated when I was there, and it never left my head. And so, again, when I got to be a young guy, got into bands and the whole deal. And then it became a musical thing, but it really came from the character voices. And my dad was one of these guys around the house. He would do voices like that. And he had that gift. He had the ear, and he had the throat, and he had the way of expressing. So he a certain announcer people have a certain body. Opera singers often have a very large head and a large chest frame because there's something about the opening up of the like that. So so I do believe, and I'm sure medical people and scientists would agree, there is a certain structure that I had. And in the old days, I smoked. I don't smoke anymore. I never drank, but I'm sure there's a certain structure, but I've never lost a day in performing in over 50 years, well over 50 years. Never sick, never been able to singing on the tour with David Bowie and all Billy Joel and that, never had a night of screaming, and yet we're playing for 100,000, 200,000 people. So I think, again, with the announcing, like my dad, He was the same way. Oh, he could rich thing. He'd answer the phone. Hello. Everything was, hi, how are you? So that was his voice. And my uncle. So I was impressed by that. And then when I started doing commercials, again, I was doing commercials for a lot of products, whether it's Gushers or Cheerios or whatever. And I would sing. That's how I would get my initial thing because I had the rock and roll band those years. And I would start to sing, and they would say, hey, could you read the copy for us? We needed to come in for about 15 seconds or maybe 20 seconds. But could you read it for us? You have a nice voice. Just read it for us. We'll see how that works for the commercial when we send it over to the agency. I said, sure, I would do it. I had been living with my dad and my uncle for how many years and hearing that, the FBI, Barnaby Jones. So I could hear the melody and I had as I told you, like opera singers, I had a particular chest, muscular structure, health, just strength, muscles in your throat, and in your jaw. That's a big part of it. The shape of your mouth, all that, and the way you use your stomach and your diaphragm. So I believe I had that. And so then they would listen back. They say, well, the client loved the spot, so you'll do the voiceover. So and then boom, the gamers started calling me, all Rockstar started calling me, and all that sort of stuff. And again, even earlier than Rockstar Games, because when I did the Turtles, there were no video games. And that's when Jake called me, and I said, so I've done, yeah.
You mentioned Rockstar Games. I should mention you were in Red Dead Redemption and a bunch of other games for them.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto, yeah.
Yep. Couple of editions of Grand Theft Auto. What's funny is they don't always, again, like being a character actor, they don't necessarily call me, although I do everything, they don't call me for the guy like, hey, call the bad guys. Hey, what are you talking about? The leading man type of guy, because there's a lot of guys, that's what they do, and they do it good, and that's all they do. And so that's great. But I can do that too. But they can't do characters.
Right.
And you know what parts, and I've talked to other people about that, there's a certain lack of fear going into voicing and doing a character with confidence and commitment. Many people are afraid. There's something that when they go in front of the mic, and of course other people, being even one engineer, when they're in front of the mic, suddenly the world closes in, and the ability to go to character is very difficult because it becomes a self-identification. Do I see myself as that? And I'm going, no. And they can't say, I don't see myself as that. And I can't do it. Maybe I can. And maybe I sound silly. Or maybe maybe I'm embarrassing myself. But I got to tell you, all the successful characters that I know, and I know the LA guys and New York guys, and I hang around with them. I know what they have, the mentality to be able to say, I will do it. I will act the fool. I can be a fool. And I'm not afraid because I do it good and I can do it well. And I'm genuine and I'm committed and you're going to believe me. So therefore, getting back to the video games, et cetera, the Red Dead Redemption, all thing. So I'm doing the voice of a little magician who's, a stunted magician who's walking around and throwing, color bombs everywhere. And then on a lot of one of the GTAs, I do a character called the liberal superhero. Okay. And it's a cartoon. And what it is in the game, it's on a television when one of the characters walks into a room.
Sure.
And they're over there is a television, blah, 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 and then suddenly, if you zoom in, which you certainly can, they're doing an entire cartoon show. Characters, several different things, theme, plot, timings, fake commercials. This is on this within Grand Theft Auto, within. Okay. So then again, I'm doing a lot of those things. There's a fake commercial called Live Ammo. And it's about a store that sells ammunition, and I'm doing like the wrestler guy, buy live ammunition, get it when you want, get it every day. But again, it's the character guys. It's not like, hey, watch out, where's that girl? I have to find the girl. It's not that, because that's very much linear.
story. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, they have such real life, like they have all those radio stations to program in that game and all that. It's crazy how much of the world they have to fill up, and all those things take actors and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. And then of course they have these little. Sometimes I'll do the game, and of course you know how video games work. They'll record the voices, but then there's a lot more animating stuff they have to finish up and mix the whole thing. So maybe 2 years later, this thing. I knew that's true with Rockstar because they are very particular. I don't know other companies. I've only I think worked with maybe two other companies, but the Rockstar is very particular. Very, it's got to be good. If it takes a long time, if it spend more money, it's got to be the best. So that's part of the mentality. So then they tell me, hey, my agent tells me, oh, Frank, you remember that game you did 2 years ago and you signed the NDA and they told you couldn't? Yeah. But then they didn't tell me titles. They didn't tell me names. They didn't just any of that. So I go into the recording booth. The recording booth is, at least in my experience, for the voice, not for the live actor. Very small, very contained, very small. A lot of gizmos, the window's very close to you, the partition between you and the engineer, and everything's tight, which I don't necessarily like.
Mm.
But the deal with video games is that everything was to be very controlled and contained. So then, of course, they put the helmet on you, and then they work. It works different ways. The modern ones are not as bad. It's just a Velcro strap across my head, right, and right above where my third eye should be, right, is a tiny, like just a little a little ball, like a little marbly thing with foam. It's a
Huh.
foam marble, and that's the mic. And
Huh.
that's going in with and it's not down here with my mouth, right? So, but it's strapped firmly to my head, and then behind my neck are mic cables that kind of hang, back here. And they have the mics, and then behind me, as my tail, they plug into the wall next to me, blah blah blah. Then I got my volume on and off, and I do that. But then the screen is obviously right in front of me. Say, hey, dude, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so you're going to match the things. But what you have here is you have very simple, basic line drawings. If you went back to Disney and said, hey, let me see how he created Mickey Mouse, and you see just a line here, a sight line there, a road here, that nothing's filled in. There's no bushes. There's no nothing. That's what I see.
Interesting.
But they see, I have a figure. I mean, I have a scratchy drawing of that figure. Again, so it turned out to be that little magician, Magnifico, turned out to be him. But of course, I didn't know. I didn't know he was a magician, just like the little head and the body. And of course, they told me what the character was like, good, bad, ugly, big, small, whatever. I okay. And so I had to create the character. So that's and then again, 2 years later, and I did it. They walked out, thank you. And I got to check then. But then 2 years later, my agent knows because they call him and say, okay, you can release the fact that it was Red Dead Redemption. So
Mm.
but then anyway, so afterwards, people say like, hey, what did you do? I say, well, I do video games, stuff like that, and so and so. And matter of fact, I had some friends that I'm working with, and they're so into classical, orchestral, a cappella music forms, very elite special, what I'm saying? Special stuff that's very sensitive, nuanced music. Again, all a cappella. They go through all these arrangements, and they're friends of mine, and I like to watch their concerts. So we had lunch the other day, right? Just to talk about stuff. I want to talk about their place. And they started saying, so tell us about that. Tell us about that. And I said, well, I do these video games. I said, I don't know. I said, one's called Red Dead Redemption. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of it. And they said, everyone who's ever played a video game has heard of it. Okay.
Big
So
one.
I'm going, even you guys know this? Because they're very up in the clay, very heady and intellectual, and very very. Of course, they like rock and roll too, but I mean, what I'm saying, I don't picture that. So and
Sure.
then they give me that video, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I have no idea. So it's kind of funny that I really don't have any idea what's going on. I don't play them and I don't understand them. But I see these little dots that keep popping up, which is a wonderful part about YouTube and the internet. Just last night I had dinner with a good friend of mine, and I saw a commercial I'd done in the 90s. It's on internet. I did the voiceover and I sang with it, the whole thing, and it just pops right up. So,
Before we get to the turtles, I would love to hear about how you became the Kool-Aid Man.
oh yeah, so that's easy. So I was really popular voiceover guy here in town, and there was a large audition uh, for the new Kool-Aid Man. There was an older Kool-Aid Man, and actually maybe a couple before. Uh, but the company, someone at the company, who knows, another creative director might have said, we'd like to have the Kool-Aid Man have a different voice, and we wanted to start reading copy. In the past, there was a little bit of reading copy, I heard, but it was mostly the oh yeah. So they said, we want you to go in. So I went to the interview and I'd listen to the old Cool Man to see, oh, well, that's what the old's like. So they want a different voice. Okay. So I went and I just went, and it was gray advertising. So I went in and just did what I thought I had to do. Right. And then my agent called me back. He said, yeah, they chose you. So I did a series of commercials then. And then the advertising agency went from gray advertising, huge one, to another very huge one, Ogilvy and Mather. And they're in the other part of town. So then I heard from my agent, he said, oh, they're changing agencies. And what that means is really like they're redoing their whole approach, branding, characters, who's on the team, everything is all going to change. So I thought, oh my goodness. But they did, somebody call me and said, well, let's Frank, go over to the Ogilvy and do the audition for the Kool-Aid Man. I said, oh yeah, sure, I'll go over there. So when I did the same, I did the same voice as that been on the air and stuff
Okay.
and it was just immediately there. Yep, they picked you. Because I don't think anybody else did that kind of, that kind of real guttural thing. They'd be able to put that in there. And so they liked that. But that's all. It was very simple of like audition, try it, they picked you, boom. And it was another nice thing that I remember the Kool-Aid spots, once it was an Ogilvy, and it was a different team, obviously. We would get together in January, mid-January, and do what their campaign was for the whole year, right? Like,
Sure.
okay, we've got about 3 spots. On this one, he's with kids on an island. On this one, they're in a pool and the police are coming over. And in this one, we're causing trouble, skateboarding down the street, whatever. So we would do that, and that would take maybe 3 hours. And so I'd have to say something for the skateboard guys or something for the other guys, for the beach guys. And then at the end, they say, okay, we're all tied up. And then they would ask me to do a few more oh yeahs, right? And so I'd sit there and go, oh yeah. And they would say, oh, great. And they say, try 3 more, oh yeah. They said that, and they would put on the talkback, they say, now we'd like it to be really low, really low. I mean, and they would throw the name. Obviously, we all know the name Barry White. Again, we're not stealing anything, but they said we like the very deep voice of Barry White. That's what we like the most. So and I got you. I know what he's about. And so but I would do that. Like, oh yeah, no. We need energy in that. We got to have some energy because, hey, kids, soft drink, kids skateboard down the street, dude. And they don't listen to Barry White anyway. That's not their world. Right. So I'm not trying to be an idiot, but I explained to them. I said, well, let me tell you how I see it as a voice guy and an announcer and how it appears on the television. Barry White is not a high-powered energy guy. Okay, so you got that down. So the reason he's not is because everything is way down here, but you want the energy. So then it's actually, I was on Jeopardy one time and somebody searched the internet because I used to explain to people, I put Barry White and David Lee Roth together because David Lee Roth has got, well, he's got that whole thing going on, or Sammy Hagar. David Lee Roth does it better. But they got that thing. So little by little, I would take that, oh, yeah. And I would start adding, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. And I would start, yeah. Then you know what? And kids would never know this unless they're movie buffs. Wolfman Jack in American
Sure. Yeah.
I use him all the time. Nobody does them, and nobody can really do that, Hey, talk about the Wolfman Jack. Oh, come on in the studio. I got some popsicle right here. It's all, come on, have a popsicle, brother. So that's just that low, soulful voice, and that was part of the Kool-Aid Man, But I was going to tell you, at the end of the recording sessions every January, it would be, okay, we got everything set and everything, and I would listen to it afterwards. Always they picked the same voice because that same voice would ring in everyone's hair. And if it was a little bit longer or shorter or higher or lower, they'd hear it Because even though a lot of people don't have maybe a nuanced ear for music and timing and etc., they have a memory like a
Mm,
dog or and I'm not comparing people to dogs, but like an animal. Extrasensory perception about certain branding things. Tony the Tiger. No, 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 no. There's a new Tony Tiger. No, you don't have the old guy, and I can tell. But the other guy's something. No, 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 no. It's minuscule, milliseconds, millipitches that may change it, and it's never original. So I can tell you for 25 years, it was all, we got that voice. That's it. And, oh, yeah. Same recording, same recording. We changed it. Didn't want to risk it. And that's a lot of people do. Tony the Tiger, same thing. And these guys usually last into their 90s and stuff. But actually, what's to be truthful right now, they're not advertising with the Kool-Aid Man. They might use the voice for, not the voice, the name for something. But
mm.
I know of the guy who replaced me. I was doing it for so many years, and I think they didn't want to spend that much money anymore to advertise Kool-Aid. They figure everybody knows it. So and again, they had the option of going onto cable and the internet.
Mm.
And I know as a union member for many, 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 many years, the money that's been made by actors and voice people and dancers and singers is made on commercials that are on Channel 2, rather CBS, NBC, ABC. That's the ones that make the money.
Sure.
And so nowadays, I don't want to get too deep on it, but kids don't watch, the kids who they want to sell to don't watch television. So
No. Yeah.
it's all this stuff. Yeah. So everything went that way. So I don't think, there are a lot of products don't even do that stuff anymore. Don't even have like a character.
So my day job is I write for magazines, and a few years back I was writing for a magazine called Mel, and there was a piece about the Kool-Aid Man that it was kind of like this. There was at the time there was this big debate about whether the Kool-Aid Man is the liquid or the pitcher. Like which one of these things is the Kool-Aid Man? I'm curious what you think the Kool-Aid Man is. Is he the pitcher or is he the liquid?
I would say he's the pitcher. Makes kind of more sense because he got the lips and the teeth and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Jump into Turtles now.
Yeah, let's jump to the turtles.
Tell me how Turtles first came onto your radar, how you ended up being the voice of Raphael in the album.
So a good buddy of mine, Jake Holmes, who was a songwriter, just called me one day, and he knew I did a lot of characters. So he called me in and said, I got this project I'm working on. And he said, they asked me to consult and do some of that, how to arrange the tunes and, how to produce them. So he's very good at that. So I went in there and they told me I was going to be the voice of Raphael. So I went in there and they played me the track. And I can't remember I know Jake was but I can't remember the other people, but it was obviously the creators and the producers. So I just went and they played it for me a lot of times. And I remember a lot of times they're very specific when they're producing a track and they want it to be sung a certain way. But they were very open to saying like, no, just do the solo as you think as it ought to be done. So it was nice of them because like I was going to say, a lot of them are sort of controlling, a little bit more controlling. And
What was your awareness of the Ninja Turtles before that point? Had you heard of them? Did you know it was a cartoon or a movie?
Oh,
Or?
of course, yeah. It was huge. Matter of fact, I used to do Pizza Hut commercials, and not specifically with any one given Ninja Turtle voice, but they someone might have written some piece or something. And maybe in some cases, I don't know if it was probably complicated licensing, but I don't know if they had to get in touch with whoever had, in other words, Pizza Hut and the advertising agency, and I forget what the agency was. I don't remember who was the agency producer.
I don't.
Yeah, so I just remember. So Pizza was the sponsor.
Yeah, yeah.
They were the sponsor. So no, I don't remember. No, no. I never knew that.
I'm curious. So you worked with the guy running the thing was the two guys running it were a guy named Bob Bijan and Godfrey Nelson. I've interviewed Bob. He did the voice of Michelangelo on the album as well. So I mean, you recorded a whole bunch of songs as Raphael. Do any of them still kind of stick with you at all, or?
That's the funny thing is when I left the studio, I don't remember. I guess I remember doing. I know that the Ninja Turtle creative guys were doing the backgrounds for a lot of the tracks, the background vocals.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. But then again, like I say, I was like kind of a what you call a hitman. I just came in to record that solo.
Well, who else was on the like was it studio guys? Like because really I was looking back at it, really all of the songs are
Yeah,
sung by Raphael and Michelangelo or all four turtles. There's no Donatello or Leonardo songs. There's really just you as
yeah,
Raphael or Bob Bajan as Michelangelo, and that's it. And then
yeah.
like there's a Shredder one and a Splinter one. So I'm curious if you like who was doing the other voices. If I mean I have names, but I don't know if it was like studio guys or who was there with you.
You know what? If you don't mind, you if you
Yeah,
could read me some of the name, and also, you know what I wonder? I wonder who are the musicians.
I can read some of these names off. Sure. So the way they credited, I should tell the audience, the way they credited you on the album itself is was vocal coaches as the turtles. So that way for the kids, they
Yeah,
wouldn't break the reality of that. So
yeah, right.
you are incorrectly credited as Donatello.
Uh,
Credited as Raphael is Scott Maynard. Leonardo is Lawrence Forsey.
uh-huh,
Michelangelo is Bob Bajan.
uh-huh.
Splinter is Godfrey Nelson. Those are the two guys who ran it. And April O'Neil is Dana Calitri.
Yeah, Calitri. I
Yeah.
do know. I know Dana Calitri. You could, if you wanted to interview her, she'd be glad to. She's still around. She's a really nice girl, and you could.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll introduce you guys. She's great and
Oh my gosh.
interesting lady and smart and fun. And she's got a lot of background. You'd love her. Yeah, she's
Oh,
great.
very cool. I love that. And then so on the instruments, okay, so on bass it's Barry Johnson, Donald Triggs, Jimmy Johnson. Keyboards it's Phil Chanel, Lorraine Wolf, Donald Blackman. Guitars is Paul Pimsler, Godfrey Nelson, Michael Thompson, and then Spaceman, it says. Sax is Roger Byan. Percussion is Bashiri Johnson, Michael Finlayson. And programming is Phil Chanel. Those are the big names that pop up here.
Right. The
Uh,
two. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to rattle off the names of the songs if any of them ring a bell for you. The ones that Raphael was a big part of. I would love to hear if anything comes to mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
The big one is Coming Out of Their Shells. Do you remember doing anything for that one?
No. No.
Okay.
That's the title track, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the title track. There was also Sing About It. I don't know if that one comes to mind.
No, not ringing a bell.
Pizza Power.
Pizza Power. You know, I should have prepared. I'll say it.
No, 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 not at all. Not a problem.
Well, but it's funny. Yeah. But no, that doesn't. That
Let's see here. So that was all four turtles. Walk Straight was a Raphael track. I don't know if you remember that one.
yeah, that's mine for sure. That's the one
Okay.
I remember. Yeah. Matter of fact, when we went cold to Midtown Comics, and I mentioned the Ninja Turtles and all that stuff. Uh, I started singing the song to the guy. He said, "Yes, yes, that's it." So that's the one that I really remember the most. Yeah, Walk Straight.
There's also No Treaties. I don't know what that one is. I forget that one.
Yeah, yeah. No, it doesn't ring
Also,
a bell.
also Count on Us.
Count on Us might be something. Yeah, I think.
That was all four turtles.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. There's Sing About It is the last one I see here.
Wow. That ring a bell. Sing About It does. Walk Straight and Sing About It. But I can't remember the tune. Can you put that up if you're busy on YouTube or something, if that's on there? Because sometimes if I just hear a couple of bars, I know it.
Sure. Yeah.
But oh, by the way, I know also I'm good friends with Bashiri Johnson,
Oh, okay.
the
That one.
percussionist, and I can introduce you. And he's not only did he do that, he's extremely accomplished. You know, now that all these years has passed, and he does all the Kennedy Center things and the
Oh, cool.
uh, very, very big jobs. He's one of the top percussionists in the country, if not the world.
Well, I mean, how many sessions would this have been? Was it just like a one-off? Like this is, I'm guessing, how many times did you go in the studio would you have guessed for this?
probably two times, well, two sessions on two,
Sure.
probably, and then probably days, that were next to each other. Yeah, yeah, because it
I
would
mean,
have.
listen, I can't imagine anything like I can't imagine for anybody like 2 days. You've done a million things. 2 days in a studio 35 years ago is gonna be that impactful.
Well, I was surprised. Like I say, I hadn't listened to it. I had listened to it since I recorded it, Walk Straight. But when we went to Midtown Comics and walked in, and of course, I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew we were looking for that Ninja Turtle stuff,
Sure. Yeah.
and I knew he and I would film it. But then I thought we'd leave, and then so when Curtis mentioned it, and then he jumped up, that's when I immediately remembered. Of course, I remember Walk Straight because I had listened to it either months or years after recording, and it was cool. And when I do record something like that, I always want to listen to it with a critical ear to see, like, okay, did I miss it? Did I get the spirit? Does it? Would I be proud to play this for somebody like that? So I took, and usually it doesn't have to be perfect, but if the intention and it works, if it makes the song work, I want to know that, or else I'd be embarrassed and I don't want anybody to hear
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I listened to Walk Straight. I said, yeah, this is a good one. I like that. I like how it
That one's
came.
not bad. That one's good. Pizza Power is good. There's a few tracks in there that I'm like, I think hold up. I do. I really
I
do.
know it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the guy behind the counter at Midtown Thompson, he said, I still listen to that all the time.
I had one when I was a kid. I had the album and somehow I lost it, but then I rebought it years ago.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I love it because I love I grew up, I was born in 85, and I grew up in that era where Ninja Turtles was everything. It was breakfast cereal, it was gummy bears, it was everything.
Right, right, right.
So
Everything.
I like the going back, I like the weird shit of Ninja Turtles. And this is to me the musical tour is the pinnacle of the weird stuff from
The
that.
weirdest.
Yeah.
I wonder if some of the names you mentioned, because I didn't notice some of them, like guitar players. But I know Barry, it was a Barry Johnson. I think one or two of your bass players I had heard of.
Okay.
Yeah. But I said, did they go on the tour or was it now a separate road guys? Because that's a different kind of job. In other words, you can go to New York and get all those guys and they're there in like a half hour the next day. But if you say, hey, want to go on the road, they will be, oh, no, 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 I can't go on the road. So I'm wondering if the names that you have on that album are road guys or New York session guys. Because
So it
Dana,
had to be the session guys because I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know that any music was performed live, frankly. I
so
don't think.
So in other words, they had the people in the costumes and they went on the theater and there was everything pumped out. Music was pumped out.
I think so because I interviewed the guy who was in the Michelangelo suit, and he was telling stories about passing out and how like they needed to be dragged off the stage. There were like two so they premiered. They opened at Radio City Music Hall, but they had a couple of preview dates in New England somewhere, and they were like they couldn't handle the weight of the suits, so they took the shells off and they threw the shells away in the dumpster behind the music the studio the stage,
Oh
and
my
that's
God.
where the jean jackets came from because they couldn't handle the weight of it was just too much to move. Like people were passing out on the stage.
Oh
So
God. Can you imagine who got through that dumpster when after
right,
they,
and they found like giant turtle shells. Yeah,
wow, would that be cool?
yeah. I also interviewed. There was also I interviewed a guy named Robert Ben Garant. So he is one of the creators of Reno 911. He was in a comedy group called The State. He and another guy, a famous comedian named Michael Ian Black, were the advance team for this tour. So they weren't on the tour; they were one city ahead on the tour, and they would
Yep.
be spots at Pizza Hut and local like weather forecasts and things like that to promote the show coming next week with the four people on the stage. So I think there's the studio thing, and I think there's some differences between what's on this and what's in the show, but I don't think there's anything live in the show. I don't think there is.
It would be too difficult. Yeah, it's too
Yeah, I think
expensive.
it was just, sell the tickets, the kids will eat it up. They don't know the difference. I don't think
They
they.
don't know the difference. They like that. That looks good.
Um, boy, is there any? So, I mean, did you ever see the performance live or the tape of it or anything like that? Did you ever have any thoughts about the performance itself?
Uh, didn't ever see it. Again, I was probably just so busy at that. I was so
Oh,
busy at
sure.
my career. Uh, and again, yeah, there was so many of these things happening, just different characters doing different things. And I, yeah, I rarely followed some of that stuff. But I kept checking on the music. I mean, I kept going back to the album because I like the way the album was produced, and I still knew some of the people involved in that. And
It
so,
says this is recorded at once. It was recorded at Conrad Recording in Hollywood, California, the Hit Factory in New York City, and Unique Recording in New York City. Do you know which one of those?
mine was at Unique. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, I was at Unique,
Very
and
cool.
I know Jake was there. Matter of fact, as I talk about it, you haven't mentioned Jake's name yet. I can, if you'd like to interview Jake, he's a very, very interesting person. I
Yeah,
mean,
who was he on this?
somehow he was a music producer slash consultant because he was the one who forwarded me to them. So what they were probably doing is
Yeah.
they probably said, "Look, we're not as into music and production and working quick, bam, 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 and we don't know how to do it." But see, every day Jake was producing two or three tunes for jingles, 60-second tracks for Budweiser or for, whatever, Dove shampoo. And so I'm sure they probably said, "Hey, we don't do this often. So would you come in and Buddy, would you recommend some people?" And he might have recommended Dana because he knows Dana Calitri. And of course, he knows Bashiri. But that's what I thought. Now, I don't know if Jake was on the other things because it was just the turtle guys, right?
I see his name here.
Huh?
It says the gang of Green, the neutral, would like to thank, and he's on this laundry list of names. That's
Uh-huh.
that's the place I see his name is Jake Holmes, correct?
There it is, Jake
Yeah.
Holmes.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of names here. And yeah, they're not
Uh-huh.
always crediting them as the work they did because they made
Uh-huh.
a mistake with you. They also don't credit the vocal, they credit the Turtles as the vocalists in case the kids are reading this and they don't want to destroy the illusion. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you do see Jake on that.
and do you see Jake Holmes? Yeah, yeah, there's a laundry list of names of people being thanked, and Jake Holmes is right here.
All right, thank you. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a ton of names. There's probably 50 names here. So,
Yeah, right.
but I mean, that kind of covers. Is there anything else that stands out to you from this time about being a turtle? Because that's a pretty interesting credit in a ton of interesting credits.
Yeah. It's funny, Curtis's uncle, he mentioned him. Curtis does some work for him. And he said, like, I'm going to town. Frank and I are doing some work on the Instagram. And he said, "Oh, tell him to do something about the Ninja Turtles." And then Curtis told me that, and I said, "Oh my God, I forgot." Not forgot I was a Ninja Turtle, but I said, "Oh, that was a big deal. That was a huge character. That was a big, big deal at that time, and people talked about it all the time." So that's funny. So that kind of unearthed it for me. Honestly, I didn't, but there've been a lot of things like that, and even as I just quickly, I'll interject. Yesterday, I was working with a woman who we used to work in a certain jingle house together. And then we started talking about those names. And then when their names were spoken, I remembered that commercial. And her husband is the drummer in Saturday Night Live, and he's into Cajun Zydeco music, right? Creole. And he has so anyway, so I put it all together. I said, "Oh, remember we did that jingle for blah blah blah." Went right to YouTube and boom, it appeared. So that was the same kind of thing. Like I would do, boom, something happened. And it
Sure.
was Ninja Turtles. You just these things pop up, and thank God for YouTube, and they just trace them. It's insane. And so, like I say, that was just the mode is like a character, and then boom, a Gushers commercial, and then another commercial, and then so yeah, that was yeah. So I don't, well, I hate to be dry up on that, but I am glad I can give you those extra names because they'll have other insights.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I just anything that pops up is interesting to me. I was gonna ask you for one special request before I let you go.
Sure, sure, sure.
Can you give me a cowabunga as the Kool-Aid Man?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Let me see. One, two, three. Yeah. Hey, cowabunga, dude. Oh, yeah. Cow, 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 cow. Cowabunga.
That was delightful. Frank, thank you so much for doing this. This is a real pleasure.
Well, thanks for catching me, Brian. Thanks so much. And I'll do my we got my little.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Okay, so for those looking follow you on Instagram, the it's frank.sims, and I should mention you guys are doing a giveaway, a signed Raphael figure. Is there a certain date you're doing the giveaway? When is the giveaway planned? Do you know?
It's gonna be next week. We're gonna be getting hot, and this will be next week. Yeah.
Okay, so next week. So that's in July. Sometime July. I'll get an exact date from you guys. Whenever you want to do that, and then I'll run
Yeah.
the episode along with that for you.
Cool, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, the giveaway Frank Sims, and also there's also your website franksims.net.
Yes. Excellent. Do I? Can I show this? Are people watching?
There's no video, but I can actually, if you hold that for a second, I'll include that as the picture for the episode.
Excellent. I'm gonna go like this. Yeah. Get the reflection off it. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, I will get that picture. Perfect.
Cool, man.
I'm glad this worked out, and I should give a special shout out to the Midtown Comics guys because they connected us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Frank, thank you again for doing this. I do appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you real soon.
Sounds great. Take care.
Cool, cool.
Bye.
Remember that we all have to grow. Everybody does it in a different way. So do it on your own. That's what the turtles say. Walk straight. No need to mutate. Mutate. Never got to mutate. Got to walk straight. No need to mutate. Mutate. No need to if you're walking straight. Got to walk straight. Talk straight. Be straight. See straight. Hear straight. Think straight. Walk straight. I can hear you now. In the beginning we were crawling around. A nuclear mutation is what got us off the ground. But you're walking tall, you're ahead of the game. And you know that moving backward is a crying shame. So when they ask you if you're joining in, just keep on walking and never begin. You may not be green and have a cool shell, but you'll be you and you'll do it so well. Walk straight, no need to mutate. Mutate. Baby, if you're walking straight, you got to walk straight. No need to mutate. Mutate. No need to if you're walking straight. Come walk straight. Now talk straight. Got to be straight. See straight. Hear straight. Think straight. Come on, walk straight. I can hear you. You gotta walk, you gotta talk, you gotta be, see, think, feel, hear, yeah, walk straight, yeah.